reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. That very day, the first of the week, 2 of Jesus' disciples were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus. And they were conversing about all the things that had occurred. And it happened that while they were conversing and debating, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them. But their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped, looking downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, said to him in reply, "Are you the only visitor in Jerusalem who does not know of the things that have taken place there in these days?" He replied to them, "What sort of things?" They said to him, "The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people. How our chief priests and rulers both handed him over to a sentence of death and crucified him. But we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel. And besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since this took place. Some women from our group, however, have astounded us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. They came back and reported that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who announced that he was alive. Then some of those with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women had described, but him they did not see." He said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, how slow of heart to believe all the prophets spoke. Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them what referred to him in all the scriptures. As they approached the village to which they were going, he gave the impression that he was going on farther. But they urged him, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. And it happened that, while he was with them at table, he took bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. With that, their eyes were opened and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. Then they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he spoke to us on the way and opened the scriptures to us?" So they set out at once and returned to Jerusalem, where they found gathered together the 11 and those with them who were saying, "The Lord has truly been raised and has appeared to Simon." Then the 2 recounted what had taken place on the way and how he was made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. In some ways, this story is all we need to know about our faith, isn't it? It's all there in one story at the end of Luke's Gospel. 2 men walking on a road. Jesus approaches them and they don't recognize him. How many times Jesus told us, "Look for me in the least among you. Look for me among the stranger. Look for me among the immigrant, the widow, the orphan, the person you do not know, because there I am." And like many of us, they didn't see him. And then like many of us men who are walking along the road, when the women come and tell us the truth, we don't believe them either. And we think like, "Oh, well, they're just women, they're telling stories. They don't know what they're talking about," because they weren't sure all this was happening. And then Jesus comes to them and reveals what is in the scriptures to them. Breaks open their hearts as well as he breaks open the word. And they see him in the breaking of the bread. Right? It is like a little story about what we do each time we gather for Eucharist, right? The word is broken open, the bread is broken for us. Jesus comes to us. And then it seems like when it's all over, he kind of vanishes. And then we're left with each other to pray, to wonder, to hope for the time that he'll come again. All of that is in this one little story. All those things about our failings and our faults, about the way that Jesus still comes to us despite our doubts and our lack of faith, still reveals himself to us in Scripture and in Eucharist, still offers himself to us as he did on the cross, each and every time we gather. And then when we're done, he kind of disappears for a while. And we have to hold that memory in our heart. We have to hold on to that wonder of his presence until that time we gather once again to listen to the word, to break the bread. Right? All of our Christian lives are here in just this one story. If this is all you had left, if this was the only piece of the Gospels that somehow has survived through the centuries, we would still have the core of the story. Jesus came as a great prophet in word and deed. He was betrayed by the leaders of his time and crucified. He rose from the dead. He asked us to recognize him in all that we meet, all the strangers along the way, to listen to the breaking of the word and the breaking of the bread, in which his presence would be with us once again, and to remember him even though he may seem to be distant in all those times in between. It's the core of our faith. It's what makes us Christians, is to believe what this story tells us, to believe in the hope that the story of the resurrection gives us each and every day to keep on with our lives, to know that in word, in bread, in the strangers among us, Jesus is always present.